Hi, my name is Chris Parkhurst. I'm a documentary filmmaker, and I'm also the host of the Documentary Life podcast, a show that spans 140 episodes, has been downloaded in over 135 countries, and I've been producing for about 5 years. I decided to put each and every episode up here onto YouTube to sort of expand the audience, and as we say in the show, maybe inspire and inform some more doc filmmakers, hopefully like yourself. In the episodes, you may find some older, maybe outdated URLs, in particular any of the documentary filmmaking courses that we do offer online. If you have any questions about the URLs, simply look in the show notes on this page, here on this YouTube page, and that'll be able to take you where you need to go to. Other than that, I hope you enjoy the show, and it's great to have another listener to the Documentary Life. Have a great day. Microphone check, 1, 2, 3. City, sibilance. Levels check, good, sounds good. 1, 2, 3, rolling and...
We are really privileged or thrilled because with our nomination for AAC, it is the first time that American Society of Cinematographers opens the category for documentary filmmakings, which gives new hope for cinematographers.
When we use the last percentage of the battery, we just
packed and go
and get back in Skopje. Just for 3 days, we spent a lot of time in driving just to pick up and to start the shooting. I mean, to settle down in the village, so all the supplies and equipment. So it was very difficult.
Hello and welcome to the Documentary Life. This is a show that sets out to inspire and inform you on how to best live and lead your own documentary life. I'm your host, Chris G. Parkhurst, and this is episode number 138, and it is brought to you by MusicVine, creators of the most original, easy-to-use music licensing platform for you, the independent documentary filmmaker. By now, I imagine most of you have seen the extraordinary documentary film Honeyland, which is about the last female bee hunter in Europe who must save the bees and return the natural balance when a family of nomadic beekeepers invade her land and threaten her livelihood. If you haven't yet seen it, I think that you should probably stop listening to this episode right now and go watch it before returning to this episode. And I am only half kidding. Honeyland has been nominated and won awards all over the globe. It is the first film to ever be nominated for the Academy Awards for both documentary feature and international feature. It was the winner at the National Film Society of Film Critics Awards USA. At Sundance, they brought in 2 more awards, one for cinematography in World Cinema Documentary, as well as the Grand Jury Prize in World Cinema Documentary. It was also nominated for Best Feature and won the Best Cinematography at IDA's annual awards. But there are some in industry circles that are saying one of the most impressive of the multitude of nominations and awards garnered by Honeyland is the one that was given out by the American Society of Cinematographers for outstanding achievement in non-fiction filmmaking. An award like this speaks directly to the cinematography of a documentary like Honeyland. And while it's thankfully being recognized more nowadays, there was a time not so long ago that documentary cinematography was kind of disregarded or thought of as the stepsister of narrative features cinematography. That by default, to shoot a documentary somehow inherently meant either handheld, shaky point-and-shoot verite or boring, long static shots on a set of sticks. But Mails's Brothers and Michael Moore films aside, it was probably a not entirely fair assessment to have been making on the good cinematographers of our craft. Which is what made Honeyland's ASC award such a satisfying victory for so many cinematographers who have long been making incredible images but not getting the recognition that they have long deserved. And we're going to speak directly to the cinematographers of Honeyland, Fejmi, Daut, and Samir Ljuma in our next segment. But before we do that, I'd like to take a closer look at what makes a good DP and where we might find them. Now, you might be saying, Chris, I am a documentary filmmaker. I am the DP and the director, producer, and editor. Which, of course, I totally get. That's probably a true scenario for many of us documentary filmmakers, although certainly not all. It might be the case that you are the director and your collaborator is the DP, or the DOP as they might say in the UK. Or you hire out your DP, or if you're like me, you're a director DP who sometimes plays one role while working with someone else who is doing the other role. Either way, a good understanding of what to look for in a DP and how to perhaps find one is an appropriate one to be discussing in today's episode. Now, one of the first things that I think about when starting out on a documentary project is what the overall look and feel for the film will be. Obviously, the images are a critical component to that look and feel, right? And so I need to think about how I or someone else will be shooting the film, and to a maybe slightly lesser degree, what we'll be shooting with. Sometimes I'll even use multiple people on the same project, which, by the way, is what Honeyland did. For instance, on one project, Steph and I hired a DP to specifically shoot the interviews on our documentary. This particular DP was incredibly skilled at making mesmerizing looking interviews, oftentimes with a minimal amount of lighting equipment, which, as you might imagine, can come in pretty handy when shooting overseas in developing countries. I mean, this person could make a stunning looking interview in a tiny space with only a reflector, a couple of pillowcases, and 2 LED panels at his disposal. Like, I'm talking that level of minimalist. And for the more verite type stuff, which wasn't necessarily this person's forte, I picked up the camera and shot. If there's one thing that I excel at as a shooter, it's following action. I can quickly pick up a camera and engage directly with a scene in a way that puts a subject directly in their environment or situation. With a camera, I am often using my director's storytelling sense alongside my editor's brain. Now, while I've learned to light and set up my interviews fairly adequately, it will most likely never be my strong suit. The point here is to utilize the strengths of certain DPs and shooters. And so one DP might not be the right person for one project, but a perfect match for another. A DP who specializes in sports photography might not be the best person to shoot your observational doc in Macedonia. Of course, if you are not the person who is shooting your documentary, you are probably going to have to pay the person who will be. And you'll need a budget for this. I get asked all of the time what a fair price to pay a DP is. But that's a pretty complicated question to answer, because there really isn't a simple one. It's not like the commercials or narrative features world where there are standard industry rates, where on a 10-hour day a DP or a camera person makes a certain rate, and after 10 hours it goes to time and a half, after 12 maybe double rate. Unless you are working on a significantly budgeted film for HBO documentaries, you're not generally working on any sort of standard rates in documentary. In fact, many DPs working in the commercial world who are hired to work on a documentary are often taking a significant pay cut. And so where a DP might make, say, $1,500 a day on a commercial gig, on a documentary, he or she might be making half or even less that day rate. And often on documentaries, it's not unusual at all for a DP to be working on a project rate instead of a day rate. That is, they're shooting a project for one lump sum of money as opposed to a day or weekly rate. Now, I have hired people out in both capacities. I have sometimes hired someone to work a set number of weeks on a documentary and paid them an agreed upon amount. Other times, when I don't know the number of days that I might need on a project, I'll negotiate a day rate with the DP. Now, a quick note here, if you are negotiating a package deal, make sure that it includes camera and/or lighting gear. Otherwise, you'll have to pay for this separately if you don't own the necessary gear yourself. When I am hired to shoot on a commercial or corporate gig, I'm often hired to use my camera, lenses, and some lighting, my day rate, and then on top of this, my kit rental. So say my rate is $1,000 to $1,300 a day, my kit rental is an additional $300 or $400 a day on top of this. My documentary rate is often considerably less than this, and my rate is inclusive of my gear. It's not separated out. Sometimes I'm working on a lump sum for a project, but generally I'm on a day rate, even on documentary gigs. One more thing to note here, if you are shooting your own documentary, it's important to remember that your time is worth money. That is, you should be paying yourself. So make sure that on any of your budgets, you are including your rates in that budget. Now, if you'll be hiring out your DP, another important consideration is the personality and work ethic of the DP that you'll be working with. Sure, their IMDb might be impressive, but are they someone that you're going to be able to spend days and nights with? Do they travel well? Is this someone that you know? or someone that you've worked with before, or someone that has worked for someone else that you know? Do they have solid references? If you don't know this person, it's a good idea not only to look at their overall body of work, but also to try and find out a little bit about who they are and what they might be like to work with. Meet up with this person if they're in your town, or have a Zoom call with them. But also speak directly with other directors that they have worked with in the past. This should give you at least some cursory idea of what it might be like working with them. Getting the right DP for your project is a delicate balance of finding the right person for the overall look of your film, the right personality to work alongside, and then, of course, the type of budget that you will be operating with. How about you, Doc Lifer? What are you looking for in a DP? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, and I'm sure others would as well. And a great way to do this is to join me over to the D Word, where I currently host one of their topic forums, the Documentary Life Podcast Forum. It's a great way to continue on with conversations that we've only just begun here on the program. So get your voice heard and pick up some tips and suggestions from other doc filmmakers by heading over to d-word.com. All right, let's get to talking with those two DPs of the wonderful documentary that turned heads in 2019, Honeyland. My conversation with Fejmi Daut and Samir Ljuma is just around the corner here on the Documentary Life. Before we get to our conversation with the cinematographers of Honeyland, I wanted to let you know that the conversation we had ended up going over an hour and a half. It was such a joy talking to these two filmmakers. And I didn't want to cut it short because I knew that what they had to say about cinematography and documentary filmmaking was going to be really helpful to you. Now, unfortunately, we don't have time to air the whole thing on today's show, so instead, I've created a free download of the second part of the conversation. So if you're interested in hearing part 2 of my conversation with the cinematographers of Honeyland, and I do think that after part 1 you certainly will be, simply go to thedocumentarylife.com/Honeyland and take a listen. It's our way of showing gratitude to both Fejmi and Samir, as well as you, Doc Lifer. So enjoy our conversation and remember to pick up part 2 of it afterwards by going to thedocumentarylife.com/Honeyland. I want to take a moment to tell you about a music licensing platform called MusicVine. Here on the show, we often talk about the importance of good music. You know I'm a stickler for capturing the best audio possible, as it has the power to amplify your visuals and can move your audience to spectacular places. Music can seriously make or break a film. There's nothing worse than seeing great video being ruined by the same old cliche sounds that everyone has heard a zillion times. But when music is done well, it can transform the entire landscape of your film. Of course, a good soundtrack is not easy to come by. Every film, every scene, it's different, right? That's why a music licensing platform like MusicVine is so great. We've mentioned them on the show before. They're a music licensing company that I use for both commercial and documentary projects. And you will have heard me using music from MusicVine a number of times during season 2 of the show, as well as today's episode. So why do I use MusicVine? Their website looks great, and above all, it's simple and straightforward to use. They've made it really easy and intuitive to search their extensive music library. A library that, unlike most other music services I've come across, is actually original and fresh. They even have these really cool hand-picked playlists covering all sorts of filmmaking genres, including a collection specifically made for, yep, you guessed it, documentary. And recently, they've made MusicVine even better by introducing a brand new subscription for filmmakers. Their pro subscription starts from just $19.99 a month. You get total access to their excellent catalog of music. Plus, you can license as much music as you like during the subscription. As if that wasn't enough, they're also offering an exclusive discount to listeners of The Documentary Life. Use the promo code DocLife15, all lowercase, DocLife15, and you can get 15% off any MusicVine subscription. And this offer will remain valid through the end of this year, 2020. To check out their documentary playlist, as well as their entire catalog of original film music, head on over to musicvine.com. And don't forget to use the promo code DocLife15 to get 15% off any MusicVine subscription. It's time your doc films sounded as good as they look, Doc Lifer. Go to musicvine.com today. I am excited to be speaking with Fejmi, Daut, and Samir Ljuma. They are both the cinematographers of the award-winning Honeyland documentary, which so many of us have been talking about. Just to give you some idea of the awards that Honeyland has incurred, they have received the Outstanding Achievement in Cinematography in Non-Fiction Filmmaking from the American Society of Cinematographers. They also received Best Cinematography Award at IDA, Cinematography Grand Jury Prize, Special Jury Prize for World Cinema Documentary at Sundance Film Festival, and of course, very recently, nominated for not one but two awards at this year's Academy Awards, one for Best Documentary and the other for Best Foreign Language Film. Fejmi and Samir, it is an absolute pleasure. Welcome to the Documentary Life. Glad to have you joining us from Macedonia today.
Thank you for you invite us. We are so glad to be also part of this
podcast.
Show. Podcast. Yeah.
Thanks, Chris, for inviting us. Looking forward to this.
Absolutely. I'll bet it's been a pretty crazy time for you guys. I mean, at the time of this recording now, we're only a couple of weeks removed from the Academy Awards, and I know that you've only recently flown back to Macedonia. What has it been like for you the past few weeks, and then what's it like returning to Macedonia now with so many accolades attached to your name with this wonderful documentary, Honeyland?
I mean, it's a big and heavy weight, I will say. Fejmi, my colleague, he arrived a little bit earlier when everybody were so much excited, about everything.
We still, feel the excitement from our audience.
Yeah,
they were waiting to come back from LA. And finally, when we got back here, we had one small ceremony here. This award that we have some in the local in Skopje.
Yeah.
And we went there, so it was outstanding. Like I don't know, like 3 minutes, 4 minutes applause for the crew. So
standing ovations for the crew.
So this was the thing that actually everybody just wanted to give us this kind of regards.
What is the difference in feeling recognized by your peers in filmmaking versus being recognized by your friends and family and by your nation? What's kind of the difference there for you guys?
I mean, of course, there is a big difference.
Yeah.
What for us as a filmmakers, as cinematographers, really the recognitions that we received from the world famous cinematographers who are members of American Cinematography Society.
Yeah.
Then from the grand jury, which everything started on Sundance a year ago, from the IDA, International Documentary Association, and now the nomination that we are getting, and the moment when we are recording this podcast, we still don't know whether when you will hear this podcast, whether we are winners or not. So basically from IMAGO, from the International Association of Cinematographers, it's really what matters the most. Because having in mind that we are coming from the place where we cannot consider that there is a huge film industry. We cannot call it industry because during the year there are, like 3 to 5 movies probably one or two documentaries,
Yeah.
or
a few
maybe none.
shorts, yeah.
So,
Depends.
it's very weak production-wise. So, this kind of achievement, it's not only significant for us as a cinematographers, but also for the country. Because, for example, the last time when we had a nomination with a fiction movie was 25 years ago.
Wow.
In the foreign language category.
Yeah.
So I hope that we will not wait 25 more years for someone else to get this, to produce something which will be recognized worldwide.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, I can add just that this is especially for us as a cinematographers, it's very unique. I mean, even from our country, nobody till now had this kind of achievement.
Yeah.
So I can say not just 25 years ago that we got this nomination about feature film, but all these awards that we are recognized by ASC and by Sundance and so on. So they are so unique and historically for our country.
Incredible.
That is giving something like more value, or how to say,
Yeah. I mean, also, it's very good to point out that we are really privileged or thrilled. I don't know which word to use, because with our nomination for AAC, it is the first time that American Society of Cinematographers opens the category for documentary filmmaking, which gives new hope for cinematographers, exactly non-fiction filmmaking, that somehow the craftsmanship, the visual approach has been recognized by the masters of cinematography who actually nominated us, and they decided this year for the first time to have award for the documentary.
That's right, and I'm glad that you brought that up. It's really important to mention that. On one hand, I'm sorry that it's taken this long, right, for the ASC to recognize non-fiction filmmaking and documentary, but I'm also extremely elated that they have done that. And you guys, there couldn't be a better first award than for you guys.
Yeah, maybe they waited us for this film, so
that's right. They were waiting for the best.
Yeah, that's the reason.
A big reason that of course, we've had you on the show today, and something that I'm extremely excited about is we haven't really dedicated, surprisingly enough, here we are 125 episodes in, and surprisingly, we haven't really had a show that was completely dedicated to cinematography. And that's such a big reason, obviously, that I've had the both of you on. And so, with that being said, with a film like Honeyland, how were you guys first approached to work on this film? And what is it like working on a film together, both as cinematographers?
I mean, I'm so glad to hear that we can say that this is another first time so documentary cinematography on your podcast, which is good to hear this.
Yeah.
Well, everybody are asking, how come two cinematographers? Is this possible?
Yeah.
The crew that was working on Honeyland, the two directors and both of us, we were working before on another documentary called Lake of Apples. And we were limited with the time because we were commissioned. So we didn't have so much resources. So we were commissioned in certain amount of time, which was very short, to deliver the product, the video documentary about nature conservation of one lake. So that's why the producer, which is the director, decided to get on board one more director and two cinematographers.
I see.
And we saw that actually we functioned. Everything goes so smooth and very productive that when we got commissioned for, in the beginning, the video we're supposed to produce about nature conservation, we had 3 months, so we decided, we continue again, 4 of us, to make this video.
Just to finish somehow.
and we didn't have in mind that it will take us 3 years.
Right.
Because in the beginning it was idea to make a one, how to say, short video about this nature conservation program.
Yes.
But when we discovered, I mean, and when then the second family appears, this was the thing that we started to think about, to how to say, to connect them to our story.
Yeah.
So we spent a more time to get in contact with them, because it was very difficult. They are not knowing us, so our introduction, it was a little bit slowly, but in the end they agreed that they will accept like to be a part of our project, and that's how we started to work with them slowly. But it was very, from our side, very careful, just to not make some kind of mistakes, and just to follow them, how they are living, what are their how to say, daily routine and so on. So,
yeah, but it's very interesting that in the beginning, since the idea was completely different, we as a cinematographers, we decided to put a bigger production value, let's say. So in the beginning, because we had only Atija, our main character, and the focus on beekeeping, without knowing what will come out next, we were visually completely different. Like, we used a lot of drones. Gimbal shots, so it will be very steady, following her activity. We were looking for nice frame shots as well. Like, this is something that naturally comes. We don't discuss, but somehow we have that eye, both of us, having in mind his experience. Like, Fejmi has more than 20 years of experience in filmmaking. I was before more concentrated on photography. And and then somehow we started like that. But when the story developed, we then discussed, oh my God, like, we have something more different type of storytelling. It's not anymore this commercial way of approach where we follow with the drone, like a beauty shots.
We wanted to keep the story. I mean, that was the important thing for us. Because when we are getting a lot, I mean, we had some kind of equipment, so we just wanted to try to use them. But we decided, and we discovered that this will look like, how to say, maybe those National Geography or BBC channel. It could be going in other direction. So that's why we decided just to keep it simple. I mean, just to tell the story, to not make so kind of how to say, complicating stuff. So it was like, okay, if we do it like with the drone, it will be there must be a reason to make a drone shot. So not just to represent the place. I mean, the place is very beautiful and so unique, but you must have some kind of reason just to shoot with that kind of equipment. And we decided, okay, we are not doing anymore this kind of short documentary or corporate video. So we changed the style completely.
Wow.
And and we didn't have too much choices. Actually, we didn't have electricity in the village, so we were very limited about using of the equipment, because we didn't have too much batteries, just 5 or 6 battery for both cameras. And that was the reason that, okay, we have just those equipment, so we must, how to say,
use it properly.
Yeah. We'll be very efficient with that power. Real quick, did you were you guys using solar power to power up the batteries, or how were you recharging?
Actually, we bought one small
generator.
Jenny, of course.
2 or 3 months of using, I mean,
2 or 3? No, it was less.
It was there in the village, but it broke very fast.
Very fast, yeah. But also was not very useful to have a generator there, because then you have this sound. which then how you gonna say there is no electricity in the village and there is some sound which
Right.
give you
Where's that sound coming from? What's that about?
I will go back a little bit to the moment when we switched, when we started filming the mother
Please.
and her interaction with the mother in
Yeah.
the head.
Yeah.
When we saw that there is a bigger potential, that this will not be definitely short video, that we're gonna go further until we have a big material for something bigger. We still didn't know what will be, to be honest, but we changed the style. And everything till that moment, which was like the first 3 months, a little bit maybe more, I don't recall exactly, was used as a case study, So we have enough time to be familiar with the place, with their routine, what they're doing, their interaction. And then we knew exactly what we want to film till the family appeared.
Well,
And
it went in another direction.
At that moment, it was really good that we were two cinematographers.
Yeah, of course. That's I definitely thought that occurred to me pretty early on.
Like two cinematographers with two directors, we could easily split.
Yeah.
And we can, because we were limited of shooting days, like 2 to 3 days, because of limited memory cards and limited batteries for the camera.
Were you going back into town to recharge and to offload footage? How were you recharging at that point when the Jenny stopped working?
We didn't.
We didn't.
We had just those batteries. That was when we used the last percentage of the battery. We just
packed and go
and get back in Skopje.
And how long would it take you to get back to Skopje?
Around
2 hours by car.
Yeah.
It's 2.5 hours by car.
This is brilliant.
But it was problematic because
the terrain is not so.
Yeah, and we have to go twice. Because in the small Jeep that we had, 4x4 vehicle, it can accommodate just 2 people and equipment, or 4 people without equipment. So Fejko and Ljubomir will drive. Fejmi and Ljubomir will drive early morning.
Yeah.
And then me and Tamara will drive with my car to the closest village where we can go with the light cars.
So I will get back to them. I mean, just to pick them and get back to the killer. And that is just for 3 days. We spent a lot of time in driving just to pick up and to start the shooting. I mean, to settle down in the village, so all the supplies and equipment. So it was very difficult.
But brilliant nonetheless. I love this. I don't think that it should be understated, the power of the decisions that you and the directors made here in terms of aesthetics. Going from shooting a somewhat stylized, somewhat more produced film and having this other family arrive and then deciding to change the way in which you shoot the film, it cannot be understated the power of that, because it is absolutely felt. The second that family arrives, the pacing picks up, the erratic nature in some ways, and the way that things are happening. Her world, and to see how Hatice's world is completely shifted upon the arrival of this family, and her work is completely disrupted. That is felt so much in what happens in the way that you guys are filming. And so I don't think it can be understated, because I think a lot of maybe less seasoned or even veterans might have continued shooting with drones and continued shooting with gimbals and not made that shift. And you clearly made the perfect choice for the way in which to tell this story. And I can't say enough about that decision. And I assume that was a collaboration between you and the directors. It is precisely that moment in doc filmmaking where the story tells you in which way it should be told. And you guys followed that, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, it was natural somehow, because the peace and this tranquility that Hatice in her daily life had in this abandoned village, in the relation with her mother, there was no way you should use handheld because we knew exactly the mother was never left this small house. We had only one position, eventually second position, which was very hard in the winter to get because it was right next to
the stove.
So basically, you know exactly what kind of shots you're able to get there. So there was very rare time when we were forced to get the camera off the tripod. Because there was no way to lose the time because we never interrupted or we never tried to impose to our characters what to do. So, like you don't have time. For instance, when Hatice is putting medicine on the face of her mother, but this tiny little space. No, you just grab the camera and try to be still as possible.
Right.
But in contra with the family is different. You have 7 kids, which are all around the place. There is always something happening around
all
you.
The time with the father, with the mother, with the bees.
So as you can see, you could follow them from distance when they're not aware with a telelenses, or you're close by with some wider lens, trying to follow their fights, their running, their whatever, because always there is something. So in these cases, most of the time we spent both of us with the family to try to capture some moments because there's always something going on.
We just try to observe them all the time, to be somehow like invisible eye all the time, So because they're in the same time there's happening. I mean, something with the small kids with the girl that she was climbing on the roof, so the other kids are playing with the dust and so on. That's how we can actually split to different certain situations. So
I remember many times we were like, like Feiko will yell at me, "Oh, give me the wide lens." So we will just, throw to each other the lenses because we didn't have too many lenses. We have one pair of lenses and one micro lenses, so 3 lenses in total.
You were completely sharing lenses. You didn't have 2 separate units.
No, we didn't have 2 separate. We were sharing lenses.
Even better.
We had 24-70, 70-200, and one macro that is 105.
5,
That's it,
What cameras were you guys using?
Nikon DSLR.
Really? That's what you were shooting on?
Yes, this the reaction actually that we heard too many times during these awards and festivals.
With the people that we met, the professionals and
because
people.
they thought that maybe we are shooting on some kind of Alexa or better cameras, but when we answered to them that is Nikon DSLR, they were just amazed about the.
I want to get a picture. I want to give our listeners a picture of the dimensions of the room or the house where Hatice and her mother lived, where you guys were filming. Because I say this because it reminded me of a lot of when I would film in Nepal. Very, very smaller areas, dark areas that you'd be working in, and there just wasn't a lot of room. And so a lot of room to work in. And so I'm curious, can you give us an idea what the dimensions of that room that you were filming and what that was like?
Yeah, you will apologize because we are not familiar with inches, but we can say in centimeters.
Of course. We're a worldwide podcast.
Okay, so it's like 2 by 2, 2 by 3.
2 by 3 meters.
2.5 2 by 3 meters, something like that, or maybe 3.3. But if you are getting in the mind that we had this one couch that is in the front of the door, against the door, and the right side, it was so small bench, and
where the mother
stove,
was living,
and the stove, so you don't have any possibility.
It's like 2 walls are taken away immediately.
Yes. So this the room actually.
And it was so dark because there is no chimney, so all the smoke it's
Oh,
inside.
yeah.
So that was another obstacle we had, and luckily we were two. So every time when somebody will get dizzy from the smoke,
Yeah.
We
we'll
are
jump
changing,
out
yeah.
and we'll be replaced by the other cinematographers. So
Yeah. I have personally never filmed myself in Macedonia, and so I don't know generally what the light is there, what it's like. But I can say in watching this film, one of the things that was incredibly impressive and of course stunningly beautiful throughout was your film looks like it's always shot during the golden hour. And I don't know how you achieve this. Talk about this. What times of day were you shooting Honeyland?
I mean, during the day, we will stick in the hut when it's too hot outside,
Yeah.
or with the cows, with the family, or we will use, for example, we will plan, to work early morning in the summer because it's more pleasant. Otherwise, during the heat, neither the bees are, active.
Yeah.
I mean, they are active,
But they are
but it's
inside.
very, it's very hard to, to stay on that sun. It's really hot. So most of the time we were really forced to shoot in the morning, and then in the afternoon we'll make a break for lunch because we needed to cook our lunch on the open fire so we can eat something, and then after a small break we will continue. And usually if it's working with bees, we will follow Atice for some several kilometers to the spot where we will catch the golden hour to shoot the activity.
Actually, that was the only time for the interiors. I mean, during the day, after the afternoon, that is the direct sunlight in the window or in the door. So the only thing that we actually had one small 50 centimeters by 1 meter whiteboard. So that was the only thing that we just left it on the floor. That somehow the direct sun hits to the whiteboard, and we get more
details in the wall.
So you did actually have some bounce happening.
Yeah. We had.
This is the only thing that we actually somehow can manage the sunlight. No, nothing more.
Nothing more.
Because it was very contrast, and then we really needed a little bit more details.
Right.
The direction is a little bit difficult because in front of the house there is this hood.
Yeah.
So it's not so possible to the sunlight can get inside to the room. So that's why we put it to the door. I mean on the ground.
Yeah, bounce from outside to inside a bit.
So that's the reason how we actually managed.
This was only part one of my conversation with Fejmi and Samir. To listen to part two, go to thedocumentarylife.com/Honeyland and download part two. And we'll see you next time, Doc Lifer. Thanks again for listening to the show, and remember to like and subscribe to this channel. Also, remember, for any of the URLs that may or may not be outdated, and you want to get the most up-to-date information, perhaps for the documentary filmmaking courses, for the blog, for other episodes, just go ahead and check in the show notes below on this YouTube page, and that'll give you the correct URLs to use. Thanks again. Have a great day.